Welcome to the end of January. I still can't believe I just said that. I feel like January and 2026 just started, but here we are talking about everything I completed in January 2026. And let me tell you, I thought this year was going to start out strong, and it did. I completed a ton of things in January 2026. Mostly things I brought over from December 2025, but that's okay. That's okay. As long as I get stuff off my current watch list and I'm enjoying everything I watch, I'm good to go. I'm happy. 2026, I want it to be a new me. I'm not going to harp on how bad 2025 was for me, but it was bad. So anything that is positive for 2026, I'll take. I'll take. I had an amazing January in completing and watching dramas. I think I had some really nice and good picks, some not so much, but it was variety. And this list will give you some variety. Hopefully, you can take some of the dramas and movies that I watched in January and add them to your plan to watch list. I did watch a lot of movies this month, which probably helped with my number, and I watched those for a reason, which I'll tell you later in maybe a post on YouTube. And if you want to hear my mini reviews, you'll get them in this video. Please comment below what you might have completed in January 2026 for the first month of the year. Like, subscribe if you want more drama content, of course. Let's get into it because this is going to be a longer video. Also, it's winter where I live, so who's going outside? Now, even though I got a ton of things that I brought over from December off my current watch list in January, I am still working on a couple things that I probably would have finished in January if I wasn't distracted by movies that I had to watch for podcast recordings. I will say, though, some of the things that are on my current watch list, I'll be watching for a lot of 2026, which I've said in my watch list videos before. But I still think I did a fairly good job either dropping some dramas or completing them. And I probably would have done a better job at doing that if I didn't watch a ton of movies in January due to the podcast recordings I was going to do. I still watched some fantastic things, and I'm excited to talk to you about everything I completed. These are in no particular order. The first thing I'm going to talk about, and probably one of the best things I watched in January, is the Chinese movie Better Days. Better Days is a Chinese movie that came out in 2019. It was nominated for an Oscar, and it revolves around a girl who is being bullied at school and a relationship that she starts with this street kid that she happens to meet, and what happens when their lives get intertwined, and it deals with bullying and unaliving of another girl at her school and what happens with their story with that. It stars Zhao Dongyu and Jackson Yi. Jackson Yi you might know from Longest Day in Chang'an. Zhao Dongyu you might know from Ancient Love Poetry, but she's also really known for her movies as well. Better Days is one of her more popular movies along with Jackson Yi. I watched it on Amazon Prime. I rated this a 10 out of 10, but I will say it is a very hard movie to watch. It's a crime movie, of course. You have some really harsh unaliving scenes, but also the bullying is very hard to watch. So you have trigger warning for bullying, trigger warning for violence, trigger warning for just some really hard scenes to watch. I just have to forewarn you, if you're going to check this movie out, which it totally deserves a check out, it is a hard movie to watch. It is not a happy movie, but it was incredible. The acting was incredible. The story is incredible. If you do have a chance to watch this movie, I highly recommend it. I went into the movie not knowing anything about it except for it was nominated for an Oscar and who was in it. I intentionally did not look anything up, and I really love that I did that because I was not expecting a crime movie, and it definitely is a crime movie. Acting was phenomenal, especially the villains. This is Zhao Yi's first role ever. Incredible. Like, I've seen her only do romance Chinese dramas. I didn't even know she was the villain in this movie, and I didn't even know this was one of her first roles ever. She knocked it out of the park. I have a newly found admiration for her acting ability. I liked her before, but I did not know she could act this way. And if you want to see her in a completely different role as a villain, check this movie out for sure. Story was impactful. It, again, is very hard to watch, but is very impactful, and the conversations it brings up also heartwarming at the same time. The leads' relationships from beginning to end were beautiful and just very emotional, well acted. I can't praise this movie enough, for sure. I don't want to reveal like too much about the plot or even spoil the plot for you because it's just something that you need to discover on your own. I'm not trying to be cryptic or anything, but it is a very impactful movie, and I just would highly recommend this movie for anybody to watch it. Rating 10 out of 10, of course. That was Better Days. Next movie I'm going to talk about is a classic Chinese wuxia movie, and I rewatched this for the billionth time for a future podcast recording. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. It is one of my favorite Chinese movies of all time, so I'm probably very biased with this review. 10 out of 10, highly recommend. If you have never seen this classic wuxia Chinese movie, I can't praise it enough. You need to at least watch this movie once. It is not surprising at all, at least to me, that it won an Oscar for Best Foreign Film. It might seem dated now because it is a 2000 movie, but I still loved it. It was still fantastic. This stars, of course, Michelle Yeoh. It stars Zhang Ziyi, which you might know from Memoirs of a Geisha, for example. Chow Yun-fat is the male lead. He's a very prominent Chinese movie actor. Chang Chen is a very prominent Taiwanese actor. You might remember him from Love and Destiny. He was the male lead in Love and Destiny. Narco Saints, maybe from the Netflix drama. He's a very prominent movie actor. Let's see. The Soul is one of my favorites of his movies. I mean, it's a very famous Chinese movie, so you would have to be living under a rock to not even have heard of it. If you have never seen this movie, though, I would highly recommend. It's just one of those classic wuxia movies that I think everybody needs to watch once in their life. But that is a very biased review for me because I absolutely love this movie. I don't know how many times I've seen it. I owned the soundtrack as a child, and I distinctly remember listening to it over and over and over again. So when I watched this movie, which I hadn't rewatched in years, I immediately got thrown back by the music because I was like, oh my God, I own this CD. It's somewhere in my childhood bedroom. Are there flaws? Probably. But because I love this movie so much, I didn't really see them. I ignored them. I can't really name a flaw for you off the top of my head right now. Love the acting. I love the story. The fight scenes were amazing. Rewatching this movie now makes me want to watch some of the other older wuxia Chinese movies I watched as a kid, like House of Flying Daggers, for example. There is a reason why this movie is a classic and why I'm telling everybody to watch this movie and why it kind of has stood the test of time, in my opinion. It's just something you need to see and something you need to witness yourself. OSTs are memorable and beloved and famous. And that was Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. And I again rated this a 10 out of 10, but it probably is a really, really biased review of that. I completed the Japanese drama Last Samurai Standing. I rated this a 9 out of 10. You can watch this on Netflix. If you liked Squid Game or Alice in Borderland, you will probably like this. I love that it stuck with the manga feel. I am so excited that we're getting a season 2 because it definitely needs a season 2. It didn't end on a complete cliffhanger, but definitely left a lot of threads just out there, not connected. You knew they were probably planning on doing a season 2, and I'm so excited that it was announced that they are going to be making a season 2 of this. I loved that you learned a character's backstory with every episode, and then it kind of just got woven together as the story was told. I love when dramas do that because it gives a lot of context to the characters that you're meeting throughout the drama, but it did need more episodes, so I'm glad that we're getting a season 2. The fight scenes were spectacular, not surprising at all. Cinematography was awesome. It was beautiful. You can tell this had a budget for sure. It was a little predictable if you have already seen dramas like Squid Game or Alice in Borderland. There's some tropes in there that you definitely can see are going to happen in Last Samurai Standing because they're tropes of this type of drama and this type of genre, but I still enjoyed it a lot and I cannot wait for season 2. I rated Last Samurai Standing a 9 out of 10. Another Japanese drama I completed that I started in December was the Yakuza Boss's Beloved. This was one of those talked about Japanese dramas from 2025 that I eventually got around to at least starting before the end of the year. I watched this on Viki and I rated it an 8.5 out of 10. It was cute. It was fun, but it wasn't perfect. I loved the male lead. I loved how he took care of the female lead. It needed more episodes though, because it just jumped from one danger to the next, which if it's titled Yakuza Boss, of course it's going to have some dangers, but it didn't seem to have a flow where you had a danger and then you had some downtime and then you had a danger and they had some downtime. It just seemed to jump from one danger to the next. And I enjoyed those more quiet moments between our couple, and I wanted more of those quiet moments. It also just moved too fast. It needed more episodes for the pacing to be better, in my opinion. I wanted more context, I wanted more depth, I wanted more explanation, and just the short number of episodes we got with this drama did not help with wanting more of all of those things. I needed more growth from the female lead. I felt like she was timid at the beginning, had potential to be less timid and more confident, and then at the end she still was timid. I wanted to see more of that confidence coming out, and I don't think the drama delivered on that, at least to the extent that I wanted. I loved that the second male lead was not the cliche second male lead. I always like dramas who do a spin on that and not have your typical romance triangle. I felt like this drama did a nice job with that. It needed more Yakuza moments. But again, I think I'm asking too much from this drama. The scenes that we got with the male lead as the Yakuza boss, I loved. But there weren't enough of it. But maybe that's just the crime drama, me coming out and wanting more of it, but it needed more Yakuza moments for me. The male lead, his costume as the Yakuza boss did not work for me, though. That was one thing I want changed. I did not like his outfit whenever he was the Yakuza boss. I gave this Jdrama an 8.5 out of 10. If I did not say so already. Next Japanese drama I completed and I'm going to talk about is Lover's Revenge. This stars the same female lead from Yakuza Boss's Beloved. I don't know how I ended up watching 2 dramas with her in it, but I did. Rated this one an 8.5 out of 10 as well, and I watched this on Viki as well. I liked this Japanese drama more than I thought I would. I did not like the male lead's motivation on why he started a relationship with the female lead. I thought that could have been done differently. It just made him a unlikable male lead at the start of the drama. Eventually, I did like him again as the drama progressed. I loved how the female lead supported the male lead. I definitely disliked one of the parents of the male lead in this drama, but it had a surprising twist at the end that I was not expecting, so I enjoyed the twist. I'm not going to spoil that twist, though. It was too short. I feel like I say this a lot with Japanese dramas, but it was too short, and the people who were an issue, who were part of the drama of the drama were forgiven way too fast, in my opinion, but probably due to the fact that the drama was too short. I feel like we needed to have some conversations between, for example, the male lead and his mother, or even the male lead and the female lead, or maybe the male lead and his family. There was a lot of conversations that weren't had, or at least we didn't see them, because of the drama being too short. So people were forgiven too quickly, in my opinion. I love that it broke some of the stereotypes that you would get in this normal office romance, because it was a boss employee romance. It was like a rich guy and poor girl romance. Some of the tropes and stereotypes you might get from that type of setup, this drama did it differently, which I liked a lot. 8.5 out of 10 for Lover's Revenge. Last Japanese drama that I completed in January was Miss King. This is a Japanese drama on Netflix. I also rated this an 8.5 out of 10. This one caught my eye just from a trailer on Netflix. I didn't even know this was going to come out or anything, and it's another Japanese drama. I started it in December before the end of the year. I loved the concept for this Japanese drama because it gave me vibes of Queen's Gambit, but also mixed with one of those tournament anime where you're going round by round with your main character and they're fighting, or in this case, playing against different opponents. It was a combo of both of those. And if you liked Queen Gambit or you liked that sort of setup with an anime, you will definitely like this Japanese drama. Female lead was great and very well acted, in my opinion. The drama did get a little darker than I assumed it would be in parts. I didn't think it was going to be a fluffy light drama, but it definitely went dark in some areas that I was not expecting. I loved that the drama highlighted all of the female characters that seemed to be their story in this drama, no matter what type of story they had to tell. That was refreshing and very nice. It needed 2 more episodes. I think it was an 8-episode drama. It was either 8 or 10. It needed 2 more episodes. I felt the last episode, to me, everyone kind of just gave up. And then there was a time jump, and there was no context of where everybody was after that time jump. We just saw where they were, and it was a pretty lengthy time jump, like a year or something. And there was no explanation on why this person was working with this person now. And I'm like, wait, that doesn't make sense because they were enemies for the entire drama. There was just a lot of context left out from that time jump that I would have wanted, which is why I wanted 2 more episodes to explain how that happened. But overall, a very pleasant J-drama to watch and kind of a surprise for me. Not in terms that I like it because it was darker, but it just kind of came out of nowhere. I just picked it up because it looked interesting. That was Miss King. Watched it on Netflix. 8.5 out of 10. I checked out Lost in Starlight, which is an animated Korean movie on Netflix. One of the first animated Korean movies, I think, that has ever been made, or at least that I've seen, or people talk about. I'm probably wrong on that. I'm sure there's been other Korean animated movies, of course, but this one came out in 2025, and I've been wanting to watch it since it came out on Netflix. And I finally got around to watching it due to a future podcast recording. And I am so glad I did. I thought this movie was gorgeous. It had gorgeous animation. I loved that it was a sci-fi movie. It's basically about a woman who is an astronaut and who has a mission to go to Mars, and she ends up meeting a guy on Earth before she goes to Mars. It's about their relationship, what they do when she does go to Mars, long distance, but also talks about them supporting their own dreams and pursuing those dreams, all while dealing with some trauma that they both have. I love that it was a relatable story with pursuing your dreams and the romance of it all while having this sci-fi element to it. So it was still grounded, in my opinion. Love the sci-fi aspect. I think that added some real charm to the movie. As I said, beautiful animation, just gorgeous animation. It did have some unanswered questions at the end. I wanted more info with the character's trauma. It kind of glossed over a lot of that. This was a story that really concentrated on the female lead's trauma. And while they gave more context to her trauma, I wanted more context and more explanation of that. And then the male lead had trauma, but it was really glossed over just because it was female led. Sometimes I just needed more background on both, and I had some questions, or at least a fair number of questions that were left unanswered at the end. Love the OST. The music in this was great, especially because the male lead in this is a musician. It was just a beautiful and wonderful movie, and I would highly recommend for you to check out, especially if you're looking for something in the romance category. And it's unique. It's a different animated movie that I haven't really seen anything like it. It definitely would not do well as a live action. The animation is a good medium for this sci-fi part and for the space travel and kind of the magic of it all. I gave Lost in Starlight 8.5 out of 10. Adoring is another movie that I checked out in January. This is a fluffy romance movie about various relationships in an apartment complex all around their animals, their pets. So it's a father-daughter, it's a newlywed couple, it's a man dating a new woman, it's a kid who delivers to the building, like a bunch of different relationships, bunch of different lives, all revolving around pets and animals. Now, I will forewarn you, if you're an easy crier, just go into this movie knowing you'll cry. I cried for many scenes in this movie, but I am also an easy crier. I watched this on Amazon Prime. This movie has everything you would expect from a rom-com about animals. It's fluffy and heartwarming at times, but also is really sad on other parts. You know, if there's an animal in this, there's going to be sad parts. And that's the case with Adoring. It had good acting, but nothing spectacular, nothing amazing. The animals acting stood out a lot. They were fantastic. It was a rom-com. It was what you would expect from the acting when it came to the rom-com. It not bad, but not like, oh my God, Oscar-worthy acting. It was fun. It was fun. It was a light, fluffy romance movie about animals and their owners. I did like that it was like an anthology, a lot of short stories mixed in about all of these people living in this apartment complex. And I loved how the animals progressed those relationships, the different types of relationships, and how they use the animals in the story very well. I hated that I cried so much, though. I cried for multiple scenes in this. Trigger warning for a dog death in this movie. 8 out of 10 for the Chinese movie Adoring. I finished up the medical examiner Dr. Chen's Silent Evidence, the Chinese drama that I was watching in December. I give it a 7.5 out of 10. I watched this on YouTube. It was okay. It could have been better, but it wasn't horrible. It wasn't bad. I loved how quirky Dr. Chin was in this version of the drama. It did not need the comedy, though. And I also disliked the female cop at the beginning. She grew on me as I watched, but at the beginning I was like, oh my God, how am I gonna finish this drama and like her? Also did not need the romance at all, but as per some of the other medical examiner Dr. Chin dramas that changed the gender of the cop from female to male, you knew romance was coming in this one. It was not needed, in my opinion. I also figured out the main bad guy pretty early on, so that kind of lost some spark for me with this Chinese drama, but some of the individual cases that were kind of episodic were interesting, so that kept my interest a bit. I did miss the drama having a bromance, though, because even when you had the female lead as a cop, and then you had Dr. Chin, there wasn't a third person to have a bromance with, and there was no trio in this one, so I kind of missed that from the original classic. Could have been worse, could have been better, give or take. I gave medical examiner Dr. Chin Silent Evidence a 7.5 out of 10. Staying in the same lane of Dr. Chin, I also checked out Whisper of Silent Body. This is a movie with Dr. Chin as a character. I watched this on YouTube. It's also an okay movie. It could have been worse. It wasn't bad. It wasn't great. The best part was the acting. The male lead in this was great at acting, and some of the support cast were great actors in it. The writing really fell apart for me. The writing had plot that just did not make sense. It felt like they cut out whole sections of the movie explaining things and just left other things in. It did not make sense. This also tried to push a romance. I did not think the romance added anything to the movie, and I also didn't buy into the romance really. But again, it could have been worse. It was an okay movie for me. I rated Whisper of Silent Body a 7 out of 10. 3 more things I completed in January. Tune In for Love is a Korean movie. It is on Netflix. I probably would not have watched this movie if I wasn't watching it for a podcast episode, because honestly, this is just not a movie made for me. I am not the target audience when it comes to this movie, which is why I rated this movie pretty low. It stars Jung Hae-in and Kim Go-eun, both amazing actor and actress in their own right, and they had great chemistry. The story just was not for me. It's about a couple in the He's in Korea and them living their life and coming in and out of their lives and eventually having this romance. And it just was not a movie for me at all. Radio and the broadcasting radio played a big part into this story that I thought was interesting, and it was kind of their connection through the time period that they were living in, coming in and out of their lives, but that was a cool aspect of the story. The reason why I say this movie was not for me is because slice of life is not a genre that I particularly like, and this was definitely a slice of life melodrama. I was bored in parts. The leads had great chemistry. Watch it for the main couple. Their romance was great. Some parts I buyed their romance more than others, though. I got frustrated with the lack of communication. It was one of those again where it was like, if you just had a 20-minute conversation, everything would be good. And they had a lot of lack of communication trope in this. Some things also just were not resolved or explained by the end. Also, I don't think some parts of the plot were even needed. They had this creepy boss at the end of the movie that I felt could have been taken out altogether. They had enough conflict amongst themselves that they didn't need to add another one. I just think Tune In for Love was just not a movie for me, and it wasn't made for me. So if you are more into the slice of life melodrama, you might like Tune In for Love. Just was not my cup of tea. 6 out of 10. Medical Examiner Dr. Chin Death Redemption was a made for TV special movie that I watched on YouTube. Skip this one. Skip this one for sure. I rated it a 4 out of 10. It was better than the other two specials that I watched back in December, November, but not not so much better. It at least had an interesting twist at the end. I'll give it that. The movie gave little explanation or background to the characters or story and kind of just jumped right in. It could have used a lot of context. And if you aren't familiar with the Dr. Chin Chinese series, you will lose a lot of that context in this movie. The lead actor was okay, not great. In my opinion, you can kind of just skip this, but I gave it a 4 out of 10. Last but certainly not least, what I completed in January, I kept up the tradition that I always do for January every year. I think this is 5 years running, and that is watching the Korean drama award shows that are on Amazon Prime. Now, I had to kind of watch these in two steps because usually I watch them all on January 1st. And come January 1st, 2026, Amazon only had one of 3 drama award shows up at the moment. So I watched that one. And then when the other 2 got onto Amazon Prime a couple days later, that's when I watched the other 2. I kind of like checking the award shows out, especially if I have watched a lot of the Korean dramas from that year. In 2025, that was not the case, but usually I watch a fair number of Korean dramas, so I like checking out the award shows and seeing who won, kind of reliving the year of K-dramas through the award shows. I'm just happy I was able to keep the tradition up, even though I didn't watch a lot of the Korean dramas from 2025. I did discover by watching the award shows that I watched the most Korean dramas from SBS in 2025, even though that wasn't even a lot. But it was still fun revisiting the 2025 K-dramas through the award shows, and I always like watching that. Plus, it gives me trailers for new dramas coming out in 2026. So that is everything that I completed in January 2026, and now I'm going to talk about 2 of the dramas that I dropped in January 2026 as well. I just think they went in a direction I wasn't expecting, and I dropped them eventually. One was the J-drama Learning to Love. You can watch it on Netflix. A lot of people love this J-drama, and it didn't work for me. I watched 3 episodes, and I just could not warm up to the female lead. For some reason, she just was not my favorite, and I kept watching more episodes thinking I would warm up to her. And then after 3 episodes, I'm like, I don't want to continue because I just don't like her for some reason. I found myself avoiding watching it because I didn't want to deal with her. So I finally just dropped it after I realized I was avoiding watching it. And then the only other drama I dropped was Romantics Anonymous. Again, a very popular Japanese drama from 2025 that I thought I would like, and a lot of other people did, but for some reason I just did not like it. I watched 2 or 3 more episodes of this drama before I dropped it, and I just think the 2 leads were too awkward for me. I just couldn't buy them as characters and as a couple, and I just couldn't get used to their awkwardness and their vibe in the drama. So eventually I just dropped it because, again, I was avoiding episodes, avoiding watching it, avoiding completing it, and that just told me to drop the J drama. And that's it. That is everything I completed and dropped in January 2026. Let me know what you completed, what you enjoyed watching. Did you finish and enjoy the dramas I dropped? I know probably you did, because they were very popular in 2025. And let me know what you are planning on watching in February, if anything. Thank you for watching another video. And come back, watch more.